Hello, I'm Dylan,
And I'm Keon.
and this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where being a German spy actually saves our lives instead of getting us immediately shot and killed. Because this week we listened to Storm Warning,
Written by Alan Barnes
directed by Gary Russell.
and released in January 2001.
Yeah, so I guess about 5 years after the TV movie.
Ish.
TV movie was May of 96, so pretty close to 5 years.
Yep.
Only took them 5 years to get Paul McGann to come back to that role that he was originally not going to sign on to because he didn't want to play him for 5 years. Oh, the number 5 is really coming up a lot here.
Yeah, I guess when he said he didn't want to play him for 5 years, he was like, I'll play him now, and I won't play him for 5 more years, then I'll play him again.
For basically ever after. So this is the 16th release.
Yeah, 16th.
That big main range. That
First and last of the main range. No.
the first and last. The main range is still going. It's at like 200 and something now. But also the first Eighth Doctor one release, which we said already. But it has a new title theme. Again, we have a new title theme.
Yeah, it's nothing to write home about. Mainly because no one writes home anymore. They would either just call or text, but...
So would you say it's something to call home about?
Yeah, sure.
It's interesting. It's different from all the other versions of the theme we've had before.
Yeah, I don't really care for it too much. Then again, it didn't play for that long, so that was nice.
Yeah, they only put the full theme, they only put the full opening in the first part and the full closing in the fourth part, and they put like abbreviated versions of it in between all the other places.
Which is nice.
Yeah, it is, so you don't have to listen to it 6 times.
I mean, well, you don't have to. You can just skip it, which I'm guessing most people do, but I don't. Like I mentioned, however many weeks ago that it was, I've spent like several hours just watching / listening to Doctor Who opening and
Closing
credits. Which is pretty sad. But oh well.
The theme is also notable because it's the first time that Big Finish used a theme that wasn't the Fourth Doctor's theme. I believe that when they founded, the only theme they could get the rights to, or afford the rights to, was the Fourth Doctor theme. So basically every Doctor's audio until, I don't actually know when, sometime in the 30s or 40s, and number-wise, they used the Fourth Doctor's theme. Except for the Eighth Doctor range, they use their own theme. Which was arranged by David Arnold, by the way. Fun fact. He did the score for Independence Day and those James Bond movies, the ones Tomorrow Never Dies, I think, onward through Quantum of Solace.
Huh.
He currently does Sherlock.
Huh. Garbage show. Just saying.
I disagree. This isn't a Sherlock podcast. Anyway, so I guess we could just get right into explaining the plot then. What little of it there is.
Yeah, what little of it there was. This was surprisingly simple. I mean, it was pretty entertaining and, fun to listen to and everything, but for a 2-hour audio, it was, fairly simplistic plot-wise.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with a time vortex / loop.
Ship thing. The
Yeah.
Doctor's like, I can bump this time ship out of this loop if I just ram it with my TARDIS.
I think he says it's an airship, so I was like, oh, a fantasy / sci-fi airship from space or the future, but it's actually like a Zeppelin type thing from the 30s.
This is actually a different ship. The time ship he jumps out in the beginning is actually different from the Zeppelin that he lands on.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it's completely unrelated.
That's pretty dumb.
Well, it's unrelated to this story, but it comes back in a later story that they reveal exactly what ship it was that the Doctor bumped out of the time vortex.
Okay, well, yeah, there is like a big to be continued at the end of this, so... I mean, it's pretty dumb that there's barely any indication that it's a different ship.
Yeah. You only find out later it's a different ship. I don't know, because I was reading the story notes on the wiki and it's like, this later story goes a long way to explain, 1, why the Doctor's traveling alone in the serial, and 2, what that ship was that he bumped out of the time vortex at the beginning.
I guess it's interesting if you listen to all of them.
Yeah.
But anyway, the ship is being attacked by vortisaurs.
They're like time vortex dinosaurs, hence the name Vortisaur.
And one of them you don't find this out now, but one of them follows the Doctor.
Yeah, because the Doctor leaves the time vortex and lands in
On
a Zeppelin.
R101.
I've never heard.
Intro
I
to
had never
R.
heard of the R101 before this.
Yeah, I didn't think this was a real thing, and then I was like, maybe this is a real event. So I looked it up, and surprise, it is. I don't know what made me think that it might be real / based on a real thing, but yeah.
Maybe that picture of the R101 they had on the cover.
I looked at the cover for like 3 seconds.
Hey, the cover caused a lot of controversy, Keon, because the Big Finish accidentally used a bronze-colored version of the Doctor Who logo, and the BBC was like, no.
Freaking BBC.
Gary Russell was like, okay, we'll change it to blue after a couple stories. So they didn't notice till like a couple stories had already gone out.
They should have made it one of those confusing / optical illusion colors where it's like technically blue, but it looks like bronze from a distance or something like that. I don't know.
I actually don't know why the BBC had such a big problem with it being bronze, to be honest. But they did,
there are a lot of things like that in Doctor Who, actually, where it's just like, why do you have a problem with this weird licensing thing? And they're just like, we don't know, but we do.
There's just one guy at the BBC who has to handle all the licensing. He's just randomly picking. He's like, oh, that one.
It's the same guy who dealt with the Candyman controversy. Like, why do I always get stuck with this shit?
His office is like the utility closet.
Oh, God. It's funny that you mentioned utility closets, because later on, part of this story actually reminded me of some stories by Kafka, but not in that they're similar in any way, but just some interesting things. And there's that, I don't know, maybe it's famous or maybe it's not, I really don't know. Or maybe it's just famous amongst English people. But there's a scene from Kafka's The Trial with the utility. Okay, whatever, we'll get there.
Well, so the Doctor's in this, he's in the ballast tank. And this is when we meet
Charlie.
Yes, Charlie. We meet Charlie
the
first.
New companion.
And then we meet everybody else.
Yes, Charlie. Who is disguised as someone or the other, some assistant who was supposed to be there.
Like bellboy or butler or something.
And she's like, oh man, really hope no one figures out that I'm in disguise. And then maybe it's a couple minutes or maybe even a couple seconds later, they're like, you're in disguise, aren't you? Well, she's like, well, I guess it's over.
What's his name? The guy who's running the ship sends the flight lieutenant to go get whoever Charlie's disguised as, and they get Charlie and they go to the room and then they're standing there and the guy's like, you don't look like a guy, and he takes off the hat and he's like, wow. She has long hair apparently.
There's well, the Doctor talks to himself in the opening scene that he's in, and there's this line that sort of writes it off like, wow, Doctor, you really have to stop talking to yourself. And that's one of those cases of like, I think the writer assuming the audience is going to question it when really you don't, because you know, okay, it's an audio, so he's going to talk to himself a little bit and you're okay with it because, well, that's just how it is. Not that it really detracts in any way. It's just like, all right, you didn't really have to put the line in there, but sure.
He does it again later, Alan Barnes, that is. He writes in another line like that right at the end of the story when the Doctor's talking to himself again, and Charlie's like, were you just talking to yourself, Doctor? And he's like, no.
The Doctor actually does talk to himself. I don't know about the 8th Doctor. Well, yeah, I guess the 8th Doctor, maybe, but all the incarnations kind of do at some point, so even on the TV show. Yeah,
they'll usually have little asides where they make some off-the-cuff comment that's not really that important, but
yeah, like Merry Christmas to all, or whatever.
Heart now.
Anyway, I forget what they do to Charlie. Well, we should probably explain some of the other characters. There's Frayling, who,
right.
If not the guy who is directly controlling the ship, the guy who's like in charge of the flight.
I think that's what it is, yeah.
And then there's Tamworth,
who's in charge.
Right. Who you find out kind of more about who he is later. And then there's Rathbone, who's kind of like a mad scientist type guy.
And there's Chief Steward Weeks.
Yeah, Weeks wasn't as major, but he was in there.
And someone else you find out about later because Tamworth keeps mentioning the mysterious passenger in room 43.
And how he's not there as part of what everyone thinks he's there for, which I don't know what they think he's there for, actually, but he's not there for that.
Well, so Charlie makes a break for it away from the chief steward and Tamworth, and she runs into the doctor because the doctor's walking down the corridor because the TARDIS gets jettisoned out of the airship because someone was like, hey, that left ballast tank isn't empty, let's jettison it, and there goes the TARDIS.
Yep. So they're walking down like the passenger corridors, and they bump into each other, and there's some weird sounds coming from room 43 from The Shining. No, okay, no. I don't. That wasn't room 43 in The Shining, I don't think, but I don't remember what room
The Shining,
it was.
so I don't know. I haven't read it either.
It's a pretty good movie. I don't know about the book.
It's a Stephen King book, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There's apparently a lot of subplots that they cut out of the movie in the book, and then they have that one.
As usual.
Well, there's that one famous scene in the movie with like the guy in the bear suit, which is like it's a subplot in the book, and then the movie it's just this one random scene with a guy in a bear suit. And they like do this really dramatic zoom in on the bear suit, but yeah, it's pretty funny.
Sounds good to me. So they hide behind these curtains. Infallible disguise, a hiding place. They get away with it.
Yeah, I don't remember that. Yeah, they get away with it if it wasn't for that meddling alien.
Well, so they open the door to room 43 and they see Rathbone
experimenting.
It's Rathbone and the alien's wearing a diving suit.
Yeah, the alien. Well, you can't see the alien's face yet, or ever, because it's an audio.
See it ever.
Which, yeah, I guess we can talk about some of the differences between listening to an audio and watching the show at the end, even though we've already listened to a couple audios before this. So,
but we've never listened to a full cast audio. Those other ones were more like glorified audiobooks. And the vortisaur breaks through the window or the porthole or
something
like that, and starts nipping at him. And that's how part 1 ends, is with the vortisaur trying to kill them all.
Yeah, oddly they do that war games / thing that they actually always do in the show, but it's most prevalent in war games, which is that they go back like a minute and a half to 2 minutes every part. Which for the show, I can see why that makes sense because you're watching it on a weekly basis. But this, I mean,
well,
you don't have. I did listen to them all back to back. Well, no, I listened to part 1 and 2, and then I took a break and then listened to 3 and 4. But I don't know. It seems like for these, you wouldn't really watch them or listen to them too far apart.
Well, the 8th Doctor audios in specific were actually aired on BBC Radio
over
a weekly period.
Oh, yeah, I guess radio dramas still exist in the UK.
The other ones I don't believe were ever aired on BBC Radio, but the 8th Doctor ones in specific were aired on, the early ones were aired on BBC Radio, which is why I suspect these have a very long reprise at the beginning of all of them.
Huh. Yeah, I guess it's nice, but yeah.
It'd be nice if you're listening to it one episode a week or one episode every couple of days. I don't know what kind of scheduling scheme they put it out on the radio, but anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so part 2 begins with the Doctor calming the vortisaur down by feeding it some of his blood because he's a Time Lord and the vortisaur likes that Time Lord blood.
He mentions... There's like this passing line where he mentions like, oh yeah, being in the vortex affected my blood or something, and yeah.
I guess it's true. I mean, he travels in the vortex a lot, I suppose. I just saw Little Shop of Horrors yesterday for the first time, and now that's all I can think of when I think of the Doctor feeding the vortisaur his blood. If you haven't seen Little Shop of Horrors, it's a musical about a guy who discovers a new type of plant, and the plant likes to eat people. Like, the plant will grant your wishes, but you have to feed it blood and people, and he discovers this by accidentally pricking his finger and feeding the plant some of his blood.
Yeah. Is that a musical movie? Or is it
It started as just a musical. Huh. They might have made a movie of it later, but it started as a musical, as far as I'm aware anyway.
Interesting. Interesting there.
So yeah, they calm down the vortisaur, and the Doctor gives it to Weeks, He gives it to Weeks to take care of. That's why Weeks disappears for 2 parts, because he's just taking care of the vortisaur in another room.
Huh, I thought it just left.
No, Weeks is taking care of it.
Admittedly, I was doing other stuff while listening to this, which I probably shouldn't have been, but it's so dang easy to just start multitasking while listening to these.
Yeah. The other ones I listened to while walking my dog, so I didn't really do anything else while listening to them. But this one I listened to at my computer, so I also did other things while I was listening to these.
Yeah, maybe this is deeper than we ever grasped, and we're missing a lot. I don't know. I don't think so, though.
I don't think so, because I really just looked at pictures while I was listening to this. I didn't try to read anything while listening to this.
Yeah, I was reading while listening.
Okay, okay, you might have missed some things.
Like how Weeks took
The vortisaur?
Ramsey away?
Ramses.
Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay? Well, so the doctor correctly deduces that the person in the deep diving suit is
An alien.
right, and the doctor's like, I can help you with that. Oh yeah, so the doctor's like doing the thing he did in the TV movie, which makes sense. I guess they're staying consistent with the character. He's just name dropping lots of people that he's met, like the Tsarina and Lenin and Geronimo. And I read on a random site, it was talking like, why does Charlie seem so surprised when the doctor mentions that he's met Geronimo, considering Geronimo only died in 1909, which was only 21 years before this is set. So it's actually entirely possible for the doctor to have met Geronimo while not being a time traveler.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know who Geronimo is.
He was a Native American chief.
Huh. Okay, well, I guess it's just like, you know, if someone today is like, hey, I met such and such famous person, you're like, no, you didn't, or something like that, so.
That's true.
Yeah.
Do you know I met Geronimo?
Same.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they are keeping consistent with the Eighth Doctor's character. I mentioned in the movie, like, they didn't really have enough time, or they just didn't really do anything to establish his character as anyone that interesting. Other than, I guess, just sort of a typical sort of hero dude.
I do think they tried to do it more in this than they did in the movie.
I didn't really get that. I mean, he just sort of seemed there to push things along when necessary, as the Doctor does often. Mm-hmm. You know, there's some key moments or serials where like, okay, yeah, this is a bit different, or they're trying to do something here. But in this, I didn't really get that too much, really.
I do feel like there are character traits that I could
Except at the end,
pick out from the Eighth Doctor, though, from like what they tried to do in this story.
Like
how
he
clearly tries to save everybody more so than other Doctors have. Like even when they're threatening his life, he's like, "I can save you."
Maybe maybe more than the, I don't know, like the 6th and 7th Doctors, but yeah, I guess supposedly. According to you, maybe, or maybe I just read it randomly on the wiki, I don't remember. But yeah, the Eighth Doctor is supposedly more, or his stories are more dark. And like, yeah, I guess
they do get darker later on, from what I've heard.
I'm getting that a little bit at the end of this, you know? Which isn't necessarily his character being dark, but it's him being thrown into like these dark situations.
Yeah, and I think that's why people actually really like his characters, because he's thrown into all these dark situations and yet somehow still manages to, or at least tries to still maintain a positive attitude about all of it. Whether or not he succeeds, I don't know. With the whole Time War thing, I mean, we haven't seen Night of the Doctor, but the circumstances in which the Eighth Doctor actually regenerates are actually really sad. Like a sad character moment, because he's realized that he can't save everyone. I know you hate character development on this show, but
what? Yeah, I like it for the companions. I usually don't like the direction they take or try to take the Doctor in. Yeah, but I mean, as I always say, I'm pretty mixed on the Doctor as a character anyway, so yeah.
So the Doctor tells them that the oxygen mix is completely wrong for this alien now that I guess they're going through the storm and they're at the higher altitude.
They've told Frayling to take the ship up to like some insane height, and he's like, sure. And
then the Tamworth's like, now you know the reason for all those modifications we did. couple weeks ago, and
He's like, what
"Oh,
modifications?
okay." He's like,
Wait, what?
You didn't tell me about this.
So they take the ship up to a super high altitude, and the Doctor unmasks the alien because it can't breathe, and it's
A Triskele.
yeah.
It's the name of the alien species.
I think maybe I'm just making this up, but I think you got that it's like gray skinned.
Yeah.
Other than that, you don't
so.
get too much description of it. I guess another one of those. This actually has nothing to do with why I brought up Kafka earlier, but I guess another one of those Kafkaesque moments, right, where like you don't really get the description of it. Yeah.
I've never
like,
read
have you
any
read
Kafka, so it's all on
Metamorphosis?
you. No.
Well, when they first published it, you know what it's about, right? The guy wakes up and he's turned into
Vaguely.
some creature, right? And you never get like exactly what the creature is. It's like somewhat hinted that he's bug-like, but you never really know what he turns into just based on the language of the text. But when it's first published, there was like a giant cockroach on the cover, a cockroach or spider on the cover or something like that. And Kafka was like, no, you can't print this. Don't recall all of them, burn them. Because he didn't want the readers to know what it was, right? Because it's more mysterious or like, yeah, something like that.
Sounds kind of lame.
I mean, not really. That's a cool thing that you can do with like books and stories, which is like you can't really do it. You can do it in audios too. You can't really do it on TV and movies where you can't see the thing, and that's part of it. That's part of like the mysterious element of it.
Eh.
I mean, you don't have to like it, but it's there.
Yeah, it is there. Inescapable fact.
So yeah, there isn't really much description to. I forget if this alien, this specific one, has a name or if it's just
Engineer Prime.
That's more of a title, but I guess
her
they only
name.
have titles.
Yeah, I just assumed that all their names were
Engineer,
Engineer it was
A,
Engineer Prime.
B,
there was the
C.
Uncreative Prime, and there was the Law.
Yeah, that's the Kafka-ish one, the Law. Not Kafka-esque, that's a different thing. Kafka-ish. I like Kafka, if you can tell.
So
Kind of.
Part 2 is the shortest of all the parts. It clocks in at like only 20 minutes.
Yeah, I guess
And-
keeping along with the whole TV series thing where some of the episodes are like 30 minutes and some of them are like 18. No, it's actually not true. Most of them are like 24, but there are some weird outliers.
Well, I do like that the audios have the freedom to, with that.
Just make one
length.
like 6 seconds and another one like an hour and a half.
Well, because I feel like having that freedom that you don't have to make it 25 minutes, it means that you're not going to like be padding it out to get to the 25-minute mark, or you're not going to cram everything in to get everything into the 25-minute mark.
Yeah, that's true. And I agree with that, but they also seem, based on the 4 audios I've ever listened to, they seem to sort of keep it in the same format as the classic series, where it's like, all right, it's 4 parts, so it's about 2 hours, something like that.
I think they still try to roughly keep it at that, but
Or like, it's 6 parts, so it's like 2.5/2:45-ish, or something
Yeah.
like that. I don't know if there are any 6-part audios, but
there's
Probably.
one, I think. 2 maybe. I feel like it'd be kind of a drag, 6-part audio.
yeah, well, the 6-part
TV
serials
show.
were kind of a drag too. So really capturing that classic series essence.
That's what they're trying to do. So the Triskele takes a liking to Charlie because Charlie's actually being nice to it, and everyone else is trying to kill it except the Doctor, who's kind of like,
Just being
this is kind of
vaguely
weird.
racist and making these vaguely racist remarks that probably don't really have much to do with the situation at hand.
We actually forgot to mention the part where the Doctor, quote unquote, revealed that the Doctor's a German spy, because like, don't tell me
yeah.
you're a German spy, and the Doctor's like, yes, and they're like, good, we won't kill you then. If you were an English spy, you see, we would just throw you out the ship, and I was like, okay.
Like we did with Rathbone. No.
And he takes the name Johann Schmidt, which is the German version of his usual pseudonym.
The Doctor.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah. Johann
Johann
Schmidt
the-
is German for the
No,
Doctor.
Johann, the definite article there in German. Johann.
Yeah. John Smith.
Anyway, a mysterious light starts shining in through the windows.
It's a flying saucer. It's actually a flying saucer.
That's the cliffhanger for part 2, that it's a flying saucer. Or it's like the doctor going, I guess you could say it's a flying saucer.
And everyone going, okay, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. So the R101 flies up into the saucer. Oh yeah, throughout all this, the doctor's been like hinting that Charlie's not supposed to be there, and as you find out later, she actually is supposed to be there because the doctor believes that no one survived the crash, and there were 54 people on board and 54 bodies, so nobody survived the crash, but he keeps being reclusive to Charlie because Charlie snuck on, so he's like, there's only 54 bodies and you snuck onto the ship, so what's going on? Which is resolved later.
At the end, / set up to be something much greater.
Yeah, I've actually listened to Charlie's write-out story a long time ago, and I can tell you that it actually definitely does come into play throughout her run.
Well, that's good. I'm glad they're not capturing that classic series essence of setting something up and never following through with it.
From what I've heard, it actually becomes like an integral part of the Doctor's journey with Charlie, is that he feels a lot of remorse over taking her off the ship, but we'll get there.
It's pretty evident, I guess, or like the beginnings of it, pretty evident at the end.
Well, he feels a lot of remorse because the web of time starts to unravel later on because of it, because she's a paradox because of him taking her off, and a lot of people end up dying because of the web of time unraveling, and he feels a lot of remorse over doing that. So, yeah, I kind of indirectly killed a ton of people, I guess. Anyway, so
like all those other times I did, / all those other times I directly killed a bunch of people.
And felt no remorse.
Anyway, they get onto the ship, and Prime, I guess I'm just calling her Prime now. I guess it's not a her. I guess it doesn't have
It sounded like a her.
Yeah, I'm just going to call it her.
I think it was portrayed by a woman, which is why I referred to her as a her.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So she's like showing him around, and it's sort of like the interior is sort of like Hogwarts, right? Where you're standing on the staircase and then it just moves around for you.
The Doctor's really impressed with this. He's like, oh, brilliant, no staircases.
They see the Triskeli mark, where they have like a little logo or symbol. And the
Triskelion.
The Doctor mentions seeing it on Earth several times and on a couple other planets. So he's like, you're a widespread species or people or whatever he says.
Tamworth also actually reveals that he made this deal with them to return Engineer Prime in exchange for, well, he wants other things. Yeah, and Rathbone has other orders. Charlie's still on the ship with Rathbone, by the way.
Yeah, we forgot to mention that Charlie and Rathbone stay behind because the Engineer Prime only wants 3 people to come onto the ship for reasons that are explained in like a couple minutes.
Yeah, and she takes Frayling, Tamworth, and the Doctor, I think, right?
Yeah, yep. The only other 3 characters in this, except
there's
for
Chief Steward Weeks. Don't forget Weeks.
And yeah, I think Tamworth reveals some more of the backstory, how the ship crashed, and that was the Engineer Prime. Didn't talk for like ever. They were trying to get it to talk to find out what exactly it was and where it came from. Eventually it talked to like some psychic medium or something.
Yeah, in Shoreditch. And at first I thought they were going to make a reference to countermeasures, and then I remembered this was set in 1930 when countermeasures didn't exist yet.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about Shoreditch
was where Remembrance of the Daleks was set.
All right.
It's Shoreditch. The Shoreditch incident. It was the whole Dalek thing. Shoreditch incident.
So, yeah, then they finally got Prime to talk, and they're like, all right, we'll get you back to your people, and definitely won't request anything in return.
Rathbone is like, okay, if they're not back in like 20 minutes, we're just going to invade the ship and take it over. And Charlie doesn't immediately go, do you really think that's going to work? They're aliens, they have technology, they have a flying saucer, and you think you can just walk in there with a Gatling gun and win.
Well, I mean, what's his fate? Oh, was it who fist fights the dude later?
Tamworth.
That was Tamworth. He does a pretty good job there.
Yeah, but Tamworth also sacrifices himself, but we're not there yet. So, yeah.
They're introduced to some of the Triskeli, some of the aspects of like the Triskeli society, which is the engineers who are like the creators of like the Triskeli culture and like all their stuff that they made or whatever. And then there's the uncreators who are like the
destroyers.
Yeah, who are like separated from the engineers. And then there's the lawmakers. So it's sort of what I got is it's sort of like a id, ego, superego thing, where the uncreators are the id, the engineers are the superego, and the lawmakers the ego.
Something like that.
The lawmaker is the one who creates the order in society or whatever, and they're each like imparted with something in their minds or whatever that lets them know when and when not to overstep or lets them know when they're overstepping the bounds of the law that the lawmaker dictates or controls or something, and tells them not to do it.
Well, what I got out of it was that the engineers and the uncreators are like two opposites of a coin, so to speak. The one creates and the one destroys, and the law is the one that controls them to achieve the purposes of the Triskeli race.
Yeah, so I guess sort of like I get kind of like the id, ego, superego thing, right? The id is like the I don't know, not necessarily primal, but like usually associated with like the destructive forces, and the superego is like the societal harmony or whatever, and the ego is like reconciliation maybe, but yeah.
So they're talking, and it's revealed that the Engineer Prime was supposed to be choosing 3 human candidates to join, I guess, the Triskeli race. 1 uncreator, 1 engineer, and 1 lawmaker. And she's chosen the Dr. Frayling and Tamworth.
Great group.
Like, one of these people is not human, and only one of the other ones actually fulfills the roles you brought. You brought us an engineer. Good job, Engineer Prime. You failed.
Frickin' Engineer Prime.
One job. You couldn't even do that. And Tamworth's like, wait, what's going on? And then Rathbone busts in and just shoots the law.
Yeah.
I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy.
Yeah, the law specifically / lawmaker is the character that sort of reminded me of Kafka's stories, right? Especially like this one short story, which I always forget the name of. Before the Law, I think, which is about this guy seeking out the law. It's only like
who goes before the law.
Yeah, he goes before the law. It's a pretty cool story. It's only like 1 page. You should read it. It takes like a minute to read the entire story. But yeah,
Put it in the show notes.
I was reminded, of that story by this. How there's a character called the Law Maker in parentheses, but I just call it the Law, and how the idea that like we start to see the symbol of the law as the law itself.
Yeah.
Which is like from that story and stuff. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, it doesn't really have much to do with, the events that start happening now, but yeah.
Yeah, because Rathbone shoots the law, and then the uncreators are like, well, I guess we're free now to uncreate everything.
Yeah, because the law was keeping them in check, and they're like, yeah, let's go on this destructive rampage.
The doctor's like, you freaking idiot, Rathbone. And then part 3 ends. Part 4 begins with the uncreators going mad, and then Tamworth's like, I challenge the uncreator Prime to a fisticuff fight.
Yeah.
So they fight, and
they fight it out.
Charlie's like, oh, it looks like Tamworth's winning.
Yeah, I forget how they resolve this fight, actually. Like I said, I was reading other things.
So Tamworth offers up to join the Triskeli if they leave the planet. He offers to join.
Yeah. He's gonna
as
join
the new
them.
law.
Yeah.
Pretty
sweet
they
deal being this king-like guy. Now, again, not really, I guess, but yeah.
So they accept and leave.
Yeah.
Except they get back to the ship, and Rathbone's like, haha, I stole this gun from the Triskeli ship. The doctor's like, why would you do that?
Yeah, he stole the, God, what was that Time Lord gun that they were never supposed to make? And what was that thing? I forgot what it was
gun
called.
wrestle on.
No, it wasn't that.
The Omega gun, I don't know.
The super secret ultra
Time Lord
deluxe gun.
9,000.
Yeah, he stole it, and the doctor's like, "You didn't learn anything from this, did you?" And Rathbone's like, "Nope."
Rathbone's got a heavy Afrikaans accent, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not actually that heavy, and it's a little shaky.
And they do mention the Boer War. I think Weeks fought in it, as well as like 20 other conflicts.
The doctor mentions that he was there too. He picked up some colorful Afrikaans, apparently.
So the doctor starts chasing Rathbone throughout the ship, and Rathbone's like, "Haha, you'll never catch me."
The doctor catches him immediately in the airbag room and steals the gun, and Rathbone's like, "What are you doing?" And the doctor's like, "I just blow us all to hell right now." Rathbone's like, "You wouldn't do that."
"You wouldn't do that because I have this axe."
And then Charlie's like, "Well, the ship crashes anyway, so..." And then the doctor's like, "Yeah, there's not really any difference between me destroying it now and you crashing in 10 minutes, so..."
Rathbone's like, "Wait, what?"
The doctor's like, "I can save you, Rathbone. Just put the axe down. Let the gun go." And Rathbone's like, "All right, I believe you, doctor." As if.
Psych!
Actually pretty much does that exactly.
He throws the axe.
And punctures a hole, because it's a Zeppelin, and it's made of leather, and it's not like it can withstand a heavy blow from an axe.
Yep, so he was the one who caused this incident. / would have been caused no matter what he did, so there you go.
Yeah. So they start going down, and the doctor's like, "Looks like we're gonna die."
But Ramses, the vortisaur, shows up.
They named him Ramsey.
Well, at the end.
He
shows up.
Charlie names him Ramsey after the Prime Minister.
He shows up, and they're like, "Convenient," so they head off.
Well, the doctor's flying out of the ship, and he's like, "Save yourself, Charlie!" And then the vortisaur shows up, and he's like, "I used to ride these at the academy."
Yeah, they make mention of how, like, they used to ride them on Gallifrey, which I thought was a pretty weird point there.
It's just like riding a horse or a bull, or...
Yeah, you
Maybe
never
it's like
forget
their version
how.
of it's their version of
Bikes.
running with the bulls. It's riding with the vortisaurs.
Like, several people die every year in Toledo.
Yes. Because it seems like riding a vortisaur would be just as, if not more, dangerous.
Well, they don't really ride the bulls, they just run away from them.
Yeah, and the ones who aren't that good at running away
Get speared.
don't make it.
Yep.
It's kind of morbid.
Yeah.
So the doctor flies Charlie down with the vortisaur, and the Zeppelin, that crashes. Doc's like, "Well, everything's saved," and then Ramsey goes insane because of Charlie and runs away. And the doctor's like, "Wait a minute, 54 bodies, -1 because Tamworth stayed on the ship. Oh shoot, Charlie was supposed to be the 54th body." Dun dun dun. And then he's like, "Well, I guess I have to go kill her now and put her in this wreckage."
Well, he says that at some point he's going to have to take her back to the ship and make sure that she crashes on the ship.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, what he's going to be struggling with for however long this story sort of lasts.
Yeah. Well, her hideout is completely unrelated to the Zeppelin.
Wow.
But they make mention that they had found a resolution to that problem before. I think they like find some Time Lord Ex Machina device that repairs the web of time, or
I was
something
hoping it would
like
actually
that.
be like a satisfying thing, but maybe it would work. I don't know.
Her hideout was satisfying.
Huh, okay.
Which I won't spoil it because I'm assuming we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
At some point.
Because we're going to listen to everything, so...
But it is one of the most satisfying hideouts, in my opinion.
Okay, that's good. Because I liked her, I guess. I liked Charlie, but she didn't really seem to have too much of a personality right away. I mean, the most interesting thing about her in this was right at the end when, she was supposed to have died.
Yeah, and the doctor is like struggling with this. He's like, "I have to tell you something, Charlie." And she's like, "Yes, I will come with you." And the doctor's like, "Ooh, man, no going back now."
We forgot to mention part of Charlie's backstory, which is that she was trying to get to Singapore.
Yeah.
The ship was going to land in Karachi, and she's like, "Oh, I just make a hop, skip, and a jump right over to Singapore." I'm like, it's not that freaking easy.
Especially
that
not in
close.
1930.
But yeah, I didn't really get too much about her character here other than she's just like maybe the sort of typical, like, just upbeat companion, and like there's nothing wrong with that, but it wasn't overly interesting. I don't think she's a bad character or anything. She'll probably have some moments later on.
Yeah, it'd have to depend on what they do with it and where they take her. But I think they gave her an interesting backstory, like she ran away from home and she's approximately 16 or whatever.
Yeah, I think it was related to a conversation she had with some RAF guy, I think. This is when I was reading something else, so I didn't really get.
Well, she's going to
100% of
Karachi
this.
because she was talking with this boy she liked, and she was like, "We should meet up."
It was in the RAF, right? I'm
We
not
should meet up
making
in
that up.
Singapore. I think so. Yeah. She's going to Karachi to get to Singapore. She's like, "We should meet up in Singapore," and she's like, "The guy told me to bugger off, but I'm gonna go there on New Year's Eve to Singapore anyway. And if he's not there, well, hell, I'm gonna go anyway."
Yep. That doesn't happen.
Well,
I mean,
apparently,
in this story,
according to the wiki, the Doctor spends multiple times in the next stories trying to get Charlie to Singapore,
probably failing miserably.
much like how the Fifth Doctor failed to get Tegan to Heathrow Airport for like a season. Yeah, and they don't actually. It ends with him riding on the vortisaur off to go find the TARDIS because it flew out of the Zeppelin. And it ends before they actually make it back to the TARDIS. So
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting that they didn't actually get to the TARDIS. We didn't get a description of what the console room looks like either.
Yeah. I mean,
Which
they
is fine.
don't really need to. I mean,
No, they
it
don't.
could have been nice to have a scene with it, but like the story wrapped up pretty nicely, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Overall, I
go
thought it was
into-
pretty good, I guess.
Yeah, really enjoyed that sound quality considering everything else we've watched. I mean, except maybe those 3 audios was obviously way worse than this. But I mean, other than that, like a lot of the sound choices wasn't like really a soundtrack. It was more like ambient sounds. Which, yeah, I guess you got to pay a lot more attention to that when you're making an audio. Well,
Yeah,
maybe not. I don't know. But
Well, you do kind of because you have to add in all these sounds of people walking and like where they're going.
yeah, well, you do when you're making a movie or a TV show too. But
Yeah, except when you're doing those, you
they're
have
actually
like
there
you
some
have
of the
this-
time.
It's actually you're actually recording them walk, and then you see it, and then you put it in later. And this one is like you have the script to go off of, and you have to remember to put the sound in.
yeah, that's true. But it worked out pretty well. You know, there was sort of a low hum when they were on the ship,
Yeah,
so that was pretty nice.
I was kind of impressed that the ambient noise was so good, considering this is one of the earlier efforts, and I guess I just kind of assumed, maybe incorrectly, that the earlier efforts wouldn't be as good as their later ones. Because I feel like when they started, they wouldn't have had as much experience with it and as much
Money,
time and money.
maybe not money. I really don't know, but
I guess we can talk about the differences between listening to an audio and watching a TV show.
yeah, I mean, we already sort of touched upon it. Like, obviously, you can't see what's on the screen because there isn't necessarily a screen, and that I think that's the case with the vortisaur too. As far as I know, they didn't describe it in too much detail. Sort of just leave it up to your imagination. And I think I do agree with the sort of the Kafka thing from that I was talking about before. Like, yeah, it's sort of there's like it adds like an interesting like quality to it that you can't really see.
But at the same time, how much of it is also down to the fact that it'd just be really awkward if they described every single thing, because you only have dialogue to describe things, and it'd be kind of awkward if every time someone showed up, they're like, "Oh man, look at that green hat he's wearing.
Yeah,
Wow."
yeah, exactly. That's why a lot of people don't like the realist movement in literature, because there's just page upon page upon page of description, and it's really not good. Well,
In your
okay,
opinion.
that's not entirely true, but most of the time, it's kind of annoying. Which doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's annoying. But I don't know. There's a fantastical element almost to it, like not being seen.
Honestly, I prefer there just to be a balance of the two. I really hate it if the author just doesn't describe anything, because I find that annoying, because I'm like, I need to have something to visually reference, but I also find it really annoying if they describe every single needle that's been like run through the sawmill that they're working at. It's like, I don't need to know all of this. I just need to know enough.
That's I guess that's fair. What you're saying, to me, I mean, maybe it's just because I read a lot, which I kind of have to, but what you're describing is like, it sounds very like amateurish to me.
And maybe it is.
Maybe it is, and maybe it's not. I'm really not 100% sure. And that's also sort of an opinion-ish type thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, sure.
Although the good thing about audio is you can imagine everything with $1 million budget, like
Yeah.
with the books.
Yep.
No need
So
for.
you don't need to know what the
terrible-
vortisaur looks like, just that it looks freaking amazing. No, okay, I don't know.
It's the best damn vortisaur you've ever seen. It looks real and not like someone's holding a piece of paper outside a window.
It's just a vortisaur drawn on lined notebook paper attached to a fishing rod, and they're just dangling it in front of the camera.
Ooh, spooky.
That episode of SpongeBob where he draws the ghost on a shopping list. Dang, I feel like there was a lot more that I wanted to say about this.
We didn't mention where the title came from, which is when they were flying into the storm and the Chief Steward Weeks was like, we're getting a storm warning. Tamworth's like, don't worry about it, just fly into the storm. In real life, the storm is what caused the ship to crash. Also, by the way, in real life, 8 people survived, 2 of which died at the hospital later. So there's 6 actual survivors, but it wasn't like the story made out where everyone died.
But in this, it was Rathbone. Thanks, Rathbone.
Rathbone.
I don't know, I got the feeling, I think I've sort of mentioned this before, I got the feeling like no matter what anyone would have done, it still would have crashed, but yeah.
Yeah, the reboot really likes to do that. Fixed points in time. You can't change fixed points in time. But then again, that's actually something they've been doing on the show since the first Doctor. If you remember the Aztecs where Barbara's like, we can stop this, and the Doctor's like, you can't change time. You can't change the past, Barbara. And Barbara's like, we could stop all this barbaric killing, and the Doctor's like, no, I like it.
They seem to, well, maybe not. I'm not sure, but maybe they pick and choose what exactly they can change and what they can't.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they do. Which they kind of have to, actually, at some point. Because I feel like sometimes compelling stories are made out of the fact that you can't change something, but on the flip side, you can also make compelling stories where you can change it, and it's like, well, what do you change?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I have anything more to say. I want to clarify something I said before. The amateurish remark is that I usually hate when people say stuff like that, because it seems just too judgmental. Yet I said it myself, so, I mean, I don't necessarily even believe all of that. It's just like, I don't know. I think really bad books and, like, things that people tend to hate because the reasons, like, oh, yeah, it's really badly written or stuff like Twilight or 50 Shades. I think those are enjoyable and have some value, you know? I think everything does really, and I don't know, it's such a judgmental and bad statement to me to say like, oh yeah, this has value, this doesn't. Which I kind of do myself, but yeah.
Well, I don't think I was saying anything doesn't have value.
I think I was saying
that anything that describes every single needle is just irritating.
No, I'm not saying, I was saying that I was sort of getting at that maybe, which I don't necessarily agree with. And obviously you can have preferences, which I obviously do.
Yeah, I feel like everybody has preferences, so I think the only problem is when you say that your preferences are like absolute truth, because at that point you're dictating what is good and what is bad based only on what you like and what you dislike. And I feel like to some extent what you like and dislike will correlate with what is good and what's bad. I don't think that just because you like something it's automatically good and because you dislike something it's automatically bad.
I guess we're not talking about the audio anymore, but yeah, I mean, gosh, there was something I was going to say in response to that. And then I forgot what it was when I said I guess we're not talking about the audio anymore. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I don't know either.
Oh, well, yeah. A lot of the times you don't really, well, not a lot of the times, I think this is pretty much true. You don't really control what you like and what you dislike.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, to get mad at someone over stuff like that is pretty silly.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, silly. It's a good word for it. Anyway, enough philosophy. You can email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. I don't actually know if that's philosophy. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Storm Warning. Don't forget that the full schedule for this Dark Years adventure is on the website at decorativevegetable.com, and you can find us on iTunes and YouTube.
And if you don't,
Trust Your Doctor.
and we're not posting it on social media, so if you don't want to know like you don't want to know what the vortisaur looks like, then don't check the website for the schedule.
I put the schedule in a spoiler tag, so you have to actually click expand and it'll show you the schedule. So if you just go to the website, it won't like pop up in your face.
Pretty sure no one cares.
Someone might.
Like, yeah, it's cool that we're doing it. But anyone listening to this right now is probably just like, God, end the episode already.
Which we are trying to. We're trying desperately.
Anyway, check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor, like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter, TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next week, we will be joined by Brendan and Nathan from Flight Through Entirety for Bang Bang a Boom. But until then, the end.